response video to Smiling Andy again. I watched the first minute. He basically reads Benatar's little end statement where he basically says, you know, it's your bad denying this truth. Okay, it has a consequence. This isn't just a game we're playing. I'm really adding a lot to this paraphrase. But yeah, it's not just a game we're playing. There's real welfares at stake. There's going to be real harm in the future. And it's on you, okay? It's your game. We decide to perpetuate it. We decide to play the game. At you, in particular, he's pointing his finger at you people who say, it's, no, I'd rather just keep on playing the game. I'd rather keep exposing people to the risk. Yeah, well, it's all on you, okay? I mean, you're making a fundamentally stupid mistake. As stupid as the slave owner who kept his slaves ignorant. I mean, it's bad enough they were slaves, right? But to keep them ignorant, to not deny them their full humanity, deny them the capacity to be fully human, was even a greater obscenity, more obscene than the slavery. You know, Andy would say that was an appeal to emotion. If you start talking about the life taken away or the harm imposed, that somehow you're appealing to emotion. No, you're appealing to the truth. You're appealing to the word guilt. What does it mean, right? You're talking about your guilty feelings? No, guilt is an actual concept. You're guilty. Okay, that's what they say. You know, when you sit there before the judge, you say guilty or not guilty. You know, and if the answer is guilty, well then you got to do something about it. You ought to fix that behavior. So this is just so bogus to say that people now it's verboten, you know, to simply point out the fact that if you're being a criminal, I should point out the harm you're creating. I should point out that it's on you, criminal. All right? In the future, they'll be pissing on your grave. I mean, really nasty pisses.
I think that one can dress that up in however academic... one can dress that up in as academic language as one pleases, but regardless of how you slice it, that is the voice of guilt.
Yeah, whatever. Again, like nobody should ever do that. No one should ever point out the guilt of the slaughter of the Native Americans or any other tragedy or any other recklessness. No one should feel guilty about Fukushima. No one should feel guilty about anything if they cut a corner or they let something slide. They could have done a lot better if they gave a fuck. And that's all that mattered, was giving a fuck. I mean, what's the distinction between me and you? You don't care. That's the simple distinction. There's no other distinction here. You just don't give a fuck, okay? You think the world revolves around you. You think you're capable of imposing on somebody else, taking risks for somebody else, where I find that just totally disgusting. It's the last thing in the world I want to do is take responsibility for something else's welfare. I don't want to in any way have a negative impact on a single sentient creature for any gain of mine whatsoever. I don't want to extract a single bit of gain out of my existence on this stinking, rotten, stinking planet. Okay, if I have to do it at something else's risk or something else's welfare. If I have to compromise something else, I don't want to play the fucking game. It's not worth it to me to be the arbiter of something else's destiny, to be imposing. Okay, it's a disgusting concept to me, and it's obviously not disgusting to you, and that's the distinction between me and you. I admit my fucking guilt. I accept the fact that, yes, to live my existence happily, I will live it guiltily. Being guilty, being a fucking criminal. And that's what you fucking are, and you don't want to accept your criminality. You want to accept nothing except your right to take.
That's guilt speaking. If you ever had someone systemically or systematically lay guilt upon you.
Oh yeah, right. Lay out the crime for you. Yeah, right. So the woman's got her heads cut off, and she's laying in a bloody sidewalk with her 2 kids in the fucking house. And we shouldn't talk about the life denied. And some friend of hers who just happened to be there, he's dead, sitting next to her, you know, rotting on a tree. Okay? No, we shouldn't talk about the life they were denied. We shouldn't talk about the suffering they endured. No, we should just sit there and pretend nothing happened. Fuck you.
You'll recognize it. You'll recognize the guilt in Mr. Benatar's words.
Yeah, he's convicting life on Earth, you stupid fuck. He's submitting the evidence of the crime, okay? He's saying, look, you have produced nothing, okay, but delusionary concepts of your own fucking egotistical grandeur, okay? You have little tiny wieners, you're fat, and you're stupid. Okay, that's all you've managed to do is create big mountains of shit that you've dumped into the ocean. You haven't done a motherfucking thing of merit on this goddamn fucking God-forsaken, yes, God non-knowing planet, you fucking cunt. Okay, and this is what you have done. You have forced children to endure horrid chemotherapy and all kinds of other crap because you can't let it go. Because you can't do the right thing fucking ever. Okay, you've strapped people into gurneys and shoved them into machines and shoved tubes up their noses and done all kinds of goddamn insidious nonsense. You've macheted your goddamn neighbors to death. You haven't gotten a goddamn thing of merit on this goddamn planet, you stupid fucking cunt. And yet you'll come to this courtroom and say, oh, please, don't list my crimes. No, I didn't have anything to do with it. You had everything to do with it. You have everything to do with it right the fuck now, shit for brains. All right? You're talking the propaganda of cover your eyes, don't look at it, don't pretend we aren't the criminal. Pretend we're not drunk. Pretend we're not driving a car with no brakes. Pretend we're not irresponsible motherfucking cunts. No, I don't think anybody should pretend that. You should just admit what you fucking are. A selfish motherfucking bastard. Just admit it, you stupid cunt.
I had a Catholic education inflicted.
Yeah, well, too bad you didn't learn a motherfucking thing. You know, as bad as Catholics are, you know, there is a love thy neighbor thing, do unto others, have others do unto you. Would you have somebody else draw straws for you, fuckwit? You want me drawing some straws for you? Is that what you would like? You'd like me to decide what roller coaster you ride on? What Ferris wheel you ride on? Should I make decisions for you, you stupid shit?
So I know I'm pretty good at you know, the little antennas going up and detecting this sort of thing.
Oh yeah, well let's just pretend we're all innocent. Yeah, because God said we're all guilty, therefore we must all be innocent, because that's what atheism means. You just do the opposite of what God says. So if God says you're all sinners, then we must all be wonderful superhumans. We all must be spectacularly loving little fuckers. No, what you are is an animal torturer. You're a goddamn malicious, insidious, sadistic, motherfucking selfish cunt. Okay, that's what it should say in the good book. You, acronita fucking vid, is a fucking cunt.
Now, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of guilt, if you ask me.
Oh, if you ask me, I have just the right amount of guilt. Yes, I have just the right amount of guilt. Fuck you. You get to decide how guilty you are. Yes, I'll go to court and I'll admit that, yes, well, sometimes I don't stride the proper distance, you know, and wiggle my fanny just right when I'm walking. But other than that, I haven't committed any crimes. Oh, yeah, I voted Republican, of course. And I did all the other bullshit things. You know, I eat bacon in the morning.
It means that you have a conscience. It means that you want to do what is right. And it means that you sort of feel ashamed for obviously doing what your own conscience tells you is wrong.
Yeah, with your own brain, right? Your brain has logic programs, and those logic programs basically say, God damn it, you know, it's right. Okay? The brain is saying, you don't have any excuse for this except you being a selfish cunt. You hear your brain say it, you know that's exactly what it's saying, you're just rationalizing because you're a selfish cunt. And your brain is saying that's a rationalization. You're just rationalizing, making excuses because you want. Alright, so just admit it. You're caught up in the game. You're a fucking Dodger fan. Okay, the Dodgers aren't intrinsically better than any of the other jackass millionaire teams. Okay, it's just as stupid as the rest of them. Their color blue uniforms doesn't make them better. You know it. Everybody else fucking knows it. So quit playing the goddamn game like you think the Dodgers are somehow better.
And it leads you to morally question your own actions, which is healthy.
Yeah, of course. But let me tell you exactly how much. Only have this much guilt. Yeah, only be guilty for being, wearing the wrong, not matching socks. Yeah, take responsibility for not wearing matching socks. But don't worry about, contributing to capitalism or maintaining a stupid system or encouraging stupid sluts to have babies. No, don't worry about doing that.
But guilt can be a powerful bludgeon used to essentially enslave people.
Oh, right, right. So here you're talking about all these you people. You need your goddamn autonomy. You need your goddamn, what's the word you keep using? Your word for actualizing yourself. You need all these power words. You need your free fucking will, and yet you can't even manage to figure out when you're being manipulated by guilt. And like I said, how can guilt never works if it isn't true? So get real. You never feel guilty unless there's a goddamn good reason. Alright? And that's the goddamn truth, and you goddamn know it.
It's guilt, if you ask me, is one of the most underestimated, destructive things in the arsenal.
Yeah, of course. Yes, being convicted of your crimes is a sin. Justice is sinful. That's the evil thing. We don't want justice. Nature didn't provide it. We shouldn't impose it. That would be silly that there be justice. Okay, and the guilty be found guilty. Oh no, that would be outrageous. Yes, of course. You're just one of the lying scum. Again, this has nothing to do with this subject.
Guilt. And in the context of antinatalism, there's this huge amount of existential guilt, a huge amount of original sin and all this sort of thing.
Yeah, there's none. There's absolutely none. So again, be clear. There's none of that bullshit. There's no religious notions in antinatalism. Benatar doesn't do any preaching to any choirs. He simply spells out a fucking goddamn truth. Okay? That there's a price to be paid for your goddamn existence, and you will impose that price, alright, on victims who didn't consent to being imposed upon. That's a truth. Well, I don't know if Benatar makes that argument. But the truth is that's how it works, fuckwits.
Just by being alive, we should feel guilty, because what we're doing is we're polluting the place by being here, and that using our sex organs for what they could be used for is somehow bad.
Oh, silly. So this is how. So you're going to talk about dishonest arguments and guilt, and yet you'll make this kind of play games with verbiage to disguise the idea of deliberately and willfully, okay, creating living beings to be subservient to your needs, to satisfy your ego, your lack of fulfillment in life, so somehow the child has to compensate for your small dick. Well, that's not my fucking job, okay? I'm not here, I don't exist legitimately to satisfy somebody's fantasies. That's bullshit. Okay, unless they got a better reason than to satisfy their goddamn deluded fantasies, they have no business imposing on anything else. No fucking business whatsoever. And that's just the fucking goddamn truth, you fucking lying piece of shit.
The assumption being that having children is bad and we shouldn't do it.
The assumption being, no, the argument made, detailed, explained over and over and over again. That's right. Yeah, it's not some sort of assumption. No, it's a conclusion drawn based on evidence. And part of the evidence is the asymmetry argument. Part of the evidence is the imposition argument. And part of the evidence is that, yes, you are a selfish motherfucker. And you can see that if you just take a little tiny bit of time to look inside your true self. To turn your little eyeballs backwards for just a little bit of time. 5 fucking minutes. And you'll see what kind of conniving, weaseling, scheming piece of shit you are. And you might realize that, yeah, you know what? I wouldn't want me in charge because I'm a bit of an asshole.
Now, determinism strikes me as one of these sort of interesting insertions into any moral argument. I mentioned before that my own crise de la foi, my own crisis of faith, resulted from my inability to sort of reconcile the insistence of the Roman Catholic Church with the idea that we all have free will, and its parallel insistence that hell exists and I could conceivably be cast into it.
Right. So, yeah, but you couldn't go the one tiny, tiny little step farther and think, well, you know, whether or not there's free will or not, you still have to have some sort of deterrence for bad behavior, right? I mean, rationally, even if we had free will, even if we didn't have free will, even if God said you don't have free will, you're just mechanical machines, and if you suck as a machine, I'm going to throw you in hell. I mean, that's pretty much right there, right? And he's pretty much saying, here, I'm going to give you a reason not to be a criminal. A big reason. I'm going to give you a big, giant reason not to be a criminal. And I'm just going to make a simple contract with you. Be an asshole and you'll go to hell. All right? That is your rational choice. Now, whether you can accomplish that simple math and just go, oh, I don't want to go to hell, therefore I won't commit the crime. If you can't do that simple logic, well, you're just too fucking stupid, okay? I'm not going to give you I'm not going to get out of jail card for being too fucking stupid, but that's basically just too fucking stupid, right? I mean, we know quite obviously if people thought they were going to get caught, if they thought there was a God, they wouldn't do it. We know that's the truth, right? If you thought there was a God, hell would be a perfect punishment because nobody would do anything because they know they wouldn't want to go to fucking hell. But it's the fact that they don't believe in God is the only reason why hell doesn't work as a deterrent. Fucking people are stupid.
This didn't make sense to me. You don't have free will if you're operating under duress. If someone's pointing a gun at your head, your moral culpability is reduced.
Oh, right. Your moral culpability for crimes like thou shalt not kill or something, right? I mean, come on. We know that the list of crimes isn't exactly that egregious. I mean, it doesn't take a fucking saint to live up to the Ten Commandments, does it? I mean, most of them are just kiss God's feet and you're okay, right? What are the rest of them? Don't fuck another man's wife, all right? And you don't murder somebody, and you don't be a thief. Wow. That's really hard. I can't possibly accomplish that.
I think we agree on that. And also your ability to take moral credit for your good actions is suspect as well. I'm not helping this poor unfortunate human being because I'm a nice guy. I'm doing it because I'm afraid that if I don't do it, I'm going to get cast into the fiery furnace after I snuff it.
Right. So what's wrong with that? Again, I mean, look, I mean, ideally it shouldn't have to exist, right? If people had any kind of character, any kind of goddamn, even the simplest understanding of who they are and what they are, any kind of context, right? I mean, context is what did it for me. I mean, all I had to do was learn that, oh, I'm not the only sentient creature. Oh, I'm not the only thing of merit. And once I did that sincerely, once I was humbled and realized that my ego was not the center of the universe, well, yeah, it was sort of game over for the selfish bullshit. And yes, it was a mechanism of guilt that may help me understand that.
Now, this sets up sort of an infinite regression in people's minds when you get caught up in that kind of thinking, because you question everything you ever do and you wonder whether or not it's possible to even be moral. Now,
yeah, that's just a program running in your fucktarded head, okay? Whether it's even possible to be moral, I mean, really. It's possible. It's possible for you to define pretty well what the hell's right and wrong is. It's not that complicated. It really the fuck isn't. All right, there's only very few ethical questions that are sitting out there in that ambiguous territory where, yeah, damn, I'm going to have to flip a coin because I really can't tell which was the right thing to do. Most of them are pretty fucking obvious.
That's fine. And I think that actually that kind of thinking, however difficult it is and however disorienting it is, ultimately can lead you to a position where you understand, or you get a new and stronger sense of personal responsibility and morality when you jettison the guilt.
Oh, come on. I mean, amazing statement. Amazing statement. Jettison your guilt, and that gives you a greater sense of responsibility. I mean, this is like saying, this is like Murderer's Handbook or something. You know, jettison your guilt and you'll have so much more fun being a serial killer. I mean, this is just so fucking stupid. Yeah, duh. You got more response. Somehow, no, you'll be more of an upright serial killer. You'll be a better citizen as you kill. I mean, this is just, you know, how can you have more responsibility by jettisoning the mechanism that makes it possible for you to grab hold of it, which is the admission of guilt, the admission that you are guilty. I mean, it's only through that humbling mechanism that you're going to be at all responsible. Oh, fuck. I mean, really. You think there's some other mechanism that stops somebody from drinking and driving? but then the sense of understanding that they would be guilty of compromising other people's welfare and they don't have a right to do that. You don't think that's the mechanism that imposes the responsibility? I mean, this is just idiot. This is inane. You'll be thinner by eating more whipped cream. I mean, it's just bullshit.
Or at least you jettison the toxic guilt.
Oh, so you know, and you know the difference, of course. Of course you do. Of course you do.
But jettisoning, or inserting rather, toxic sort of guilt into a deterministic argument is...
let's be clear here. He hasn't defined what this toxic guilt is. What's toxic guilt?
I hesitate to use this term, but it's cognitively dissonant. Now, cognitive dissonance is one of those terms that's been around for a while, but it's ended up being used in the lexicon as a term of abuse. It's just basically a way of saying somebody's stupid.
Oh, please. Well, I don't know. Maybe in the circles you travel in, everything you say is probably a synonym for stupid.
Cognitively dissonant. But just because a term has been robbed of its meaning by abuse doesn't mean that this term has no meaning. If you ask me, morality and hard determinism are cognitively dissonant. I don't really see how it's possible to have the one in the same philosophy as the other.
Well, that's because you're stupid, okay? Just as Benatar said, you're just a dumb, self-deluded fuckwit. That's why you don't get any of this stuff. It's because you're just fucking stupid. I mean, what does the determinism have to do with the fact that we're biological organisms evolved into a dumb, stupid game in which there was tons of wasted carnage and harm committed, and we had to grow out of that behavior. We had to elevate ourselves above our nature. Where does determinism somehow change the fact that there's an ethical landscape, that there's value in the world? Determinism doesn't undo the value that exists. It doesn't undo the sensations. It doesn't undo the inequity of the coal miner versus the coal mine owner's lifestyle. It doesn't undo any of that.
Hard determinism and moral judgments. Hard determinism and moral imperatives. Hard determinism.
Well, again, you keep using this word moral. Why do you keep doing that? Who uses this word morality? It isn't used by most people who speak of things like determinism or speak of things like value, okay? It's used by religious kooks. So again, this is just another one of your silly tactics. We're not talking about the moral landscape.
And moral obligations. The obligation, say, not to have children. Because when you believe in a deterministic, or at least a certain type of determinism, you're inclined to think that, okay...
Well, you're going to call it morbid determinism? Yeah, the certain kind of determinism. You're going to call it morbid determinism? You stupid fucking pedophile.
Our initiative, any sort of initiative that we bring forward, anything that is usness that we bring forward, is simply a cause of something else. Any sort of action that I take that has no real moral significance, one way or another, it's neither good nor evil, simply because it's caused by something else. But again, if you have the idea of moral responsibility that is an essential part of it, you get into that weird logjam that I got into before when
No, there's no logjam. It's not that fucking complicated. Okay? The game evolved. The pieces evolved, the board evolved, the rules evolved. Okay? They grew, okay, out of nothing. Or out of no structure, out of no rules. And what happened through that complexification is some logic was imposed. Logic starts winning, logic starts being the dictator. Okay? And logically it can be understood that, okay, these have a value component. Consciousness has a value component. It can be efficiently used or inefficiently used. So that's how the definition of these ethical truths become obvious. And then you start to modify the game rules. You start saying, well, why are there kings and queens and bishops and knights and pawns? Maybe we should be playing a different game.
When I was told that I have free will. Plus, I'm going to be thrown into the fiery furnace if I don't exercise it properly. There's no.
Yeah, well, whatever. You want to keep bringing up your religious metaphors, keep doing that. It has absolutely nothing to do with anti-nihilism or depression or determinism. None of these subjects are tied to religion in any way. They're obviously quite hostile to religion. So again, this is just more bullshit on your part, more lying and slander.
Sort of idea of free will. It's you don't have free will, but you're still responsible for what you do, and that is a kind of underlying thinking in a lot of the antinatalist discourse.
Yeah, right. You're still responsible in the sense you can be called an asshole. All Benatar did was call you an asshole, fucknut. Did he do something other than that? He said, if you behave like an asshole, you will be an asshole. So he labeled you. That is his crime, right? He labeled you what you are. A selfish, ignorant, self-deluded asshole. And you're griping that somehow he doesn't have a right to do that? Fuck you. He has every fucking right to do that. And that's how you change assholes into something better. You want to know? You want to fix somebody? Yeah, the first thing you do is go up to him and say, you know, you're one broken motherfucker. All right, maybe you ought to fix that. That's what you do. That's the first step. Okay? If that doesn't work, well, then you move on to other things like running them over with a goddamn steamroller. Okay? But first you go up to them and you say, you're one broken motherfucker. And that's all Benatar did to you, you fucknut, is point out the obvious truth. You're an idiot.
You don't have any free will, but you're still responsible for what you do. Now, that's cognitive dissonance, if you ask.
Oh, yeah, you have no free will, but you're still responsible for what you do. Of course you're responsible. Everything on the planet is responsible for what it does. Everything has to account for its impact, okay? Obviously, you can't blame some things in the sense that they aren't expected to perform logic, so you can't say, you didn't meet up to the standard necessary, okay, to have freedom, or to be liked, or not to be called an asshole. All Benatar is saying is, you're not measuring up to the standard to not be called an asshole. So he's just going to call you a fucking asshole. Alright? He's going to sit there and label you what you are, but you haven't earned title as something else. You've only earned title as a deluded, broken asshole. And that's what he's identified you are. He's identified you as a dysfunctional human who will cause unnecessary suffering because you're a deluded, selfish asshole. Now where in that is a breaking of the rules of determinism? Fuck you, you idiot.
It's me. And I don't even mean that pejoratively. I simply see it as making an observation. We're all cognitively dissonant. Let's face it.
No, speak for yourself, asshole. Okay? Yeah, we all can have moments where I can't do the infinity thing, right? Infinite time. I don't know. I can't really smash that in my brain. Infinite past. How do you go backward infinitely? Eek. That gets gnarly as hell. So yeah, that causes cognitive dissonance. There's no cognitive response. My brain says, fuck. Fuck. What is that? Fuck. I don't know what to do with that word. That's fucked up. I don't know what to do with that. Alright? Yeah. There. So that's mine. Okay? But determinism? No, this one's really easy. Really fucking goddamn easy. I mean, just go bowling. You know? You can't throw the ball in the gutter and all the pins fall down magically.
We don't always do what makes sense, and we do often have a multitude of conflicting imperatives in our own thinking. Rationally and logically, we do certain things for certain reasons, but there are other stuff that we do that we really don't have any idea as to why we do what we do.
Oh, bullshit. You have every fucking idea. But anyway, yeah, okay. Yes, we have lots of competing programs running. Some are prime directives. You'll never alter on them. You'll always try to meet at that standard. And others are like, well, I can bend this one a little bit. If the right thing comes along, yeah, I'll bend my... I really don't want to sleep with somebody's wife. But, you know, in the right circumstance, it might happen. You know, because I'll bend that one a little.
Because it does seem to go against our own principles.
Doesn't seem to. We know it does. And we sometimes don't give a fuck. Because we just don't give a fuck on Thursdays. Thursdays are tough days, and yeah, we just don't give a fuck on a Thursday.
To do that is to be a human being. But it's this tension that creates this sort of hopelessness, this sort of paralysis that I have an issue with. Because, I don't know...
yeah, right. You shouldn't take pause. You shouldn't be at all disturbed that you might just be nothing better than fucking sadistic, insane Tyrannosauruses. And if somebody points that out to you, you shouldn't take 5 fucking minutes and go through a little bit of, oh, yeah, that's a bit of a bummer. I have to do something with that, don't I? I have to accept responsibility. Ah, shit. What a fucking douchebag bummer that is. But yeah, that's what's called being a mature intelligence requires. Yeah, the truth flies right in your face. You got to deal with it.
If you've ever seen this kind of person, but the religious neurotic who's in a state of complete moral crisis all the time. The person who sort of does understand that they're going to be judged for everything that they ever do, and is constantly attempting to deal with that fact.
Yeah, I don't run across too many of them, okay? So maybe you could give us a picture. I mean, again, it would be really cool if you actually referenced real people in your arguments, real things, instead of always doing these vague little drawings of these non-existent bullshit. But yeah, I'll just say bullshit to this. I don't know, what, is this in a movie somewhere? You got a movie character I can point to here? Something?
But they're also living in a world that adamantly refuses to be perfected and refuses to allow you to make clear-cut moral decisions.
Yeah, I don't know. So what? You're bringing up like what? 0.00001% of the human population here? What? Some religious fringe fundamentalist kookball, and I'm supposed to somehow worry? Come on, get to the real subject.
That's a recipe for a person with a lot of psychological, if you ask me, and emotional problems. I've met people like that, especially in the Irish Catholic community. You'll see there's seems to be a proliferation of such people.
Yeah, well, Scotland and Ireland are known to have a ton of lead in the ground, and they're all fucking stupid over there. So yeah, we already know that.
So, determinism and morality. The only way that I can actually...
Determinism and value. So again, it's this value word you keep running from. Nothing has value but your subjective impulses. It's an amazing equation. It's a silly, stupid, idiotic, and nonsensical.
See this sort of dynamic, determinism and morality, is in determinism, I'm either responsible for nothing, because again, I'm just a series of reactions to causality.
Yeah, you're still responsible, shithead. You still can be called shithead. You just don't get it, right? If something's broken, we can identify it as broken. If the toaster isn't making toast, then you say, that's a shitty toaster. And you say, is it doing anything else of any value? And if not, you throw it in the fucking garbage can. It's nothing personal. You're not punishing it on purpose. You're just saying, you're not meeting the standard, fucker. You're not making toast. And people are basically saying to you, first they're telling you right to your face, you're falling short, fucker. You're going to be causing a lot of harm. You're going to cause a future that is going to be bleaker than it needs to be because you're an asshole. That's all we're doing. All right, no one's throwing you garbage yet. Yet.
Because I have no free will. Or, bizarrely, I'm responsible for everything.
Well, every influence that's yours to influence, you're responsible for. That's right. Yay, you're the lucky winner of logic. You've done the logical equation and figured out that you're responsible for how you impact the world. And in the Wonderful Life movie, maybe you should contemplate what your influence is. And some of those influences you're never going to be able to figure out, but some of them are really, really obvious.
Because, if I'm responsible for something, I'm responsible for everything. And the third is the most difficult one of them all, but it's also the most, seems to be the most prevalent. I'm responsible for something, and just something. I'm neither completely...
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you're responsible for your impact on value substance. That will be the end of your book. When your little book is closed, the only thing that's going to matter is the equal sign will be net, your net influence, okay? And it's going to be dictated, well, it's going to be hard. I can't write the last page until the end of your progeny, so to speak, or the end of what you influenced in terms of progeny being created and all of that kind of crap. So we can never really know the end until the end. But the truth is, if we could run the model, we could see what the world was with you, and we could see what the world was without you, and you could just do the simple math and saying, yeah, this fucktard made things better, or this fucktard made things worse. But obviously some of those, even those influences are a little bit hard to measure, because, you know, it's that whole gang thing. You know, where's the gang? Is the gang that guy, or is the gang that guy, or is the gang that guy? Because you're all components in making it possible. And so you'll have to run the experiment with the whole gang eliminated, you know, also. Because you're going to have to take responsibility for your membership in the gang. But regardless, let's not get into any... No one's going to be doing this math anyway. But the point is that's the practical effect. The practical effect is you will influence the world. You will either make for more happiness or more comfort, or you'll make for less comfort. That's it. That's all there is. I'm voting for, if I don't make something that can be comforted or discomforted, I'm safe. I'm going with 0. I'm saying 0 is a fucking win here. Okay? Because playing with this shit is dangerous as hell. And you fuckers are stupid. You're playing with something very dangerous, and you're doing it recklessly and obnoxiously. You know, you're being obnoxious in your recklessness. And you're irritated that somebody might call you on it and say, you know what, you're a bit of a fucking asshole.
Off the hook, nor am I completely on the hook. It's somewhere in between. But the problem is, of course, where does my own personal responsibility begin and end? I have to take responsibility for my own actions. Yes, I understand that. But what imperatives do I have to abstain from doing? In other words, I'm being asked not to reproduce. That's, you know, I understand that. I get that. That's been sort of beaten to death here. But what else am I supposed to not do? What else?
Well, you're not supposed to tie animals up in pens and torture them for years and make them eat their own nuts off and all kinds of other crazy shit so you can have a happy, pappy breakfast meal. Yeah, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to advocate for social policies that enslave human beings, essentially, or even vote for silly wastes of money on fancy white North Americans while you watch other perfectly good sentient creatures get gobbled up for lack of 50 cents. Yeah, all these kind of things. Yeah, there's a big pile of them. Yeah, once you start asking the question, is what I'm doing wrong, you'll find out there's a hell of a lot. The list is really, really, really fucking long. Because there's no way to do this thing right. That's why. It's a fucking gladiator game, for Christ's sakes. There's no way to play this thing gracefully and with any kind of dignity.
What else am I supposed to actually go out and do? What activities am I supposed to actively engage in and abstain from engaging in?
Well, what do you think? You know, there are examples out there, the old Gandhi thing and other people like that, and he didn't even do it as good. He admits it. He didn't even do it as good as he should have. You know, he wasn't even as good a guy as he wanted to be. He wanted to be a better guy. So yeah, it's tough.
That is a moral conflict, an ethical crisis that inevitably results from the inherent cognitive dissonance.
Know what it should result in, though, is a little bit of humility. It should just result in a little bit of humility that says, that's right, this life thing is really gnarly. You know, because you really can't live any kind of good life without being responsible for a lot of bad life. And that's really sucks. And so maybe I shouldn't inject somebody into this game until we have a better game to play. You know, until we make a better game, maybe we should slow down a lot. Maybe we should even take a few steps backwards and figure out where the fuck we are and what the fuck we're doing.
Of determinism and morality existing in the same organism. I don't think it's resolvable.
I don't think there's any problem with the two are not in conflict at all. Value is easy to assess. Determinism does nothing to degrade its reality. It was created by a process. Evolution created organisms capable of creating value. they create value. By having sentient experience, they create value in the universe, and that value has to be efficiently used. It can be more efficiently used, which just creates the logical mandate that you make more of the positive and less of the negative. It's not complicated. It's incredibly simple.
And I'm not trying to say that we don't have any personal responsibility for what we do.
Oh, yes, you are trying to say exactly that. You're just making it all wishy-washy and, oh, well, we can't really know. And if you don't really know, it's okay. If you don't know, it's okay. If you're dissident, it's okay. If you're confused, it's okay. Just forget about it. Go eat an ice cream cone. That's all you're saying. You're not asking anybody to think hard. You're not asking them to, well, maybe you should fucking grab hold of that guilt feeling and really analyze it. Take a real good bite out of it and see what it's made out of. Because maybe it's made out of more shit than you are. Maybe you are the shit and the guilt is something that's actually got value.
But if we deprived of agency, I do see that it is extremely
deprived of agency. Again, this is a catchword for free will, and somehow without free will, we aren't capable of what? Where would you freely be willing from? From my extra brain? Like I have an extra brain in my ass, and that's the one that's actually controlling me. And determinism means I can't use my brain in my ass.
Extremely dissonant again, or extremely inconsistent to say, I have no agency, but I do have responsibility. I have no agency, but I do have moral culpability.
You have impact, and that's all you have to have. If I throw a rock into a really fancy watch, the rock is still broke the watch. The rock got in the gear, it snapped the little gears off, it broke the watch. It broke the watch. The rock broke the watch. Right? It doesn't mean anything has to happen. It doesn't mean I'm going to put I'm going to humiliate the rock for breaking for breaking the gear, because the rock didn't have anything to do with ending up in the gear work anyway. But the point is that this has nothing to do with, again, you want to talk about what social justice is and the fact that people emotionally need to watch criminals hang because they emotionally need it. Well, that's just the truth of our emotions. Now, you want to take that away from them? I think it's perfectly okay for somebody who's had their daughter murdered by some asshole to watch that asshole get his head lopped off. I think that's perfectly fair. Okay, it's an emotional thing. Okay, but the point is as long as we're not torturing the criminals, like that would be pointless. The punishment exists to deter other criminals. That's what it exists for. And as long as that's the correlate, as long as that's the reason why we're punishing them, is to deter somebody else who might be contemplating it, who might have an impulse that's now going to be inhibited by consequence. Yeah, that's the practical reality. You arguing something else is going on? Well, I'm not voting for that something else. I'm not voting for tormenting people for no reason. I'm not voting for retribution. I'm voting for deterrence.
And moral imperative. It's reconciling these two is it takes a great deal of mental gymnastics, and that's why I think that a lot of the gaps in the argument are filled in by guilt and appeals to emotion.
Well, of course. It's always an appeal to emotion when you try to correct a behavior that's compromising somebody else's welfare. It's always an appeal to emotion if you start talking about, well, these girls that you're using in the sex slaves, well, they could have been somebody. They could have been ambassador or something. But you're not going to educate them. You're just going to abuse them and exploit them. And I shouldn't make somebody feel guilty or responsible for the life deprived or the suffering endured. That's an appeal to emotion. No, that's how you convict the criminal. You point out the value crime. You point out what they have exposed something to, the risk they exposed something to. They pointed the gun. They pulled the trigger. Okay, the bullet didn't come out, but they're still guilty of pointing the gun and pulling the trigger.
Thank you.
Fuck you. Alright. So anyway, longer than I thought I'd have to go. But this is just despicable now. But again, right, if you're going to complain about guilt, somebody imposing guilt on you, then you are just such a fucking pussy wussy. Alright? Because guess what? That's all bad on you. If you can't stand somebody making a guilt argument to you, if you can't endure that, yeah, then you're bad on you, fucker. If you think you have reason not to feel guilty, then express it and just claim it. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. If your arrogant, obnoxious, I will take program is right, then why can't it just abolish any sense of guilt? Oh, that's right, because it's not right. Everything you live for, your whole ego edifice, is so vulnerable, and that's what guilt indicates. The fact that you can feel guilt just indicates how far you are from the person you wish you were. Yeah. Let those words seep in, fucker.